see, folks in this building will try to stir you up sometimes and get you worried. I want to remind you, they're getting you worried about 236 lines. 236 lines out of 1,412. Members of this body, what you've done over the past 38 days is incredible. You focused on your districts, you focused on your constituents, you focused on your families and what you want for your future. And I don't think we're going to have a problem with the building burning down or us making it to day 40.
It's down to last-minute haggling between the Georgia House and Senate over the state's $32.4 billion budget. Good evening and welcome to Lawmakers on day 38 of the Georgia legislative session. I'm Donna Lowry in Atlanta. We'll have more on today's budget process in the House and the Senate during our Capitol report. Then we'll hear from lawmakers from both chambers. They will also talk about the farmland conservation bill, the state of agriculture and food security, and truck weights on the roads. We'll also discuss a couple of education bills, including one on the care of students treated for epilepsy or seizures. We're going to learn about some middle school students who are getting an up-close and personal look at the bill-making process. We'll follow them through the step-by-step process of trying to get a law they think will make it safer to ride on school buses. Along the way, they met the governor and testified during a House subcommittee hearing. One of the legislators who sponsored the bill joins us. But first, let's get right down to the Gold Dome, where our Capitol correspondent Rochelle Ritchie has covered a very busy day. Right, Rochelle?
Hi, Donna. Yes, it's definitely a very busy day. And if you can probably hear behind me, it is still going on today. COVID protocols and that fight between the House and the Senate over the 2024 budget were all on the docket.
The Senate presented their version of the 2024 budget today.
The FY24 budget proposal before you now is a $32.4 billion budget. It supports law enforcement, as I said in committee. It protects our families, supports our children, and quite literally, as many of you wrote and asked, gives them hope. In the big picture that I said already, I know it's fair to say that the Senate's version more fairly reflects the governor's budget than our comrades across the hall, our compadres across the hall. Comrades, probably not the best word to use, was it there, boys?
The Senate's version increased spending in some areas.
The Senate's budget in big picture replaces funding that the House pulled from Medicaid. It also replaces the reinsurance program that was reduced by the House and adds to it. It returns HOPE funding to 100% for students with a B average. That was the second most requested item by the members of this body. And it supports the governor's $2,000 raise for all state employees.
Also a priority, education.
We address three things: literacy, dyslexia, and QBE. For the second year in a row, there's no austerity reduction to the QBE formula, and we did fund the $2,000 teacher increase. At higher education, the Senate's budget returns to the governor's position by funding 100% factor rate for prior year tuition for the HOPE grants and the HOPE scholarships at public schools. We reduced our testing budget, and some people have asked, why did we do that? Well, this body, for years, has maintained its commitment to reduce the testing requirement on our students and on our teachers in the classroom. And if we're going to reduce that testing requirement, we believe the budget should follow that reduction in tests.
And one of this session's biggest issues was also addressed, the practice of hoteling.
As of right now, or as of last night, 68 children were in hoteling situations across our state. That is 68 too many, and we will continue to hammer this point until it's 68 less. We also had 17 children, as of right now, who are bouncing either between an ER, a crisis stabilization unit, or a residential psychiatric treatment facility. We spend $178 million a year, including federal funds, on this contract. And I do not understand why that $178 million total contract cannot end this issue.
Senator Tillery also disputed media claims that the Senate and the House were particularly at odds over this budget.
I saw lines that say we're in a budget fight, that this building's about to burn down. They don't know if we'll make it to sine die. Well, guys, I want to tell you, for the past 200 years, we've made it to sine die, and there's been no problem. And the rhetoric in the halls isn't always the truth. You see, I asked our staff today, with me, to count up the lines of this budget. There are 1,412 lines in HB 19. Of those lines, 743, 52.6%, have already been agreed upon by the House, the Senate, and the governor.
One of the big losers in the next budget, Lawmakers' own network, Georgia Public Broadcasting, whose budget is scheduled to be cut by 26%.
I just wanted to at least raise that question for you, Mr. Chairman, today to see if you could address the record on why the Senate version of the budget includes that cut.
Over the years, other stations who are, I guess, would be viewed as competitors in the same space as GPB have brought a very valid argument to our body. And they've said, hey, why are you funding one and not the other? Let's be honest, what they're really saying is, why are you funding my competition? But I think that's actually a very valid point. Well, why are we picking winners and losers? I don't think that's what the space we want to be in.
The budget was passed 51-1 and was immediately sent back to the House, but they rejected the Senate's version, and their differences will now have to be worked out in a conference committee. Also in the House, a contentious debate over SB 1, which would remove the requirement to show proof of a COVID-19 vaccination for government services.
This is not a bill on whether or not the pandemic is over or whether or not it's still ongoing, but rather this is a bill that says we are not going to allow the state, its agencies, or its subdivisions or authorities to discriminate against any Georgia citizen for services that they are due.
But Democrats firmly stood in opposition, calling the bill harmful as it does not address the possibility of future variances of COVID-19 or other public health needs, and a way to simply make money.
Bills like this tie our hands with respect to the response we can provide, and it limits our toolbox whether we think we need the tools at present or not.
I have spent years now in my role as a House member immersed in the world of anti-vaccine misinformation, and I'm telling you, there is a lot of money that a lot of folks are making. So it is to their economic benefit that they have policies like this, like SB 1 that we're discussing today, because it continues to erode that faith in vaccines.
Despite the opposition, the bill passed 99-69. And lastly, a friendly battle between the House and Senate as each chamber took to the field for the annual legislative kickball tournament. Speaker John Burns calling the shots on the field like he does in the House.
There's only 10 out there. Can't count. Y'all never been able to count the Senate.
And the House took home the trophy for their second consecutive win, which they were not shy to brag about today.
And you can believe that the House boasted about that win today as well. Donna, that is my Capitol report. I'll send it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Rochelle. We're watching a whirlwind of bills fly through both chambers today. It's always hectic in these final days with last-minute hopes of one law making it this year, and we just have 2 days left. This year, it seems that we've had a lot more of that, and that's because of the way early on in the session we didn't see a lot of bills at all, and now they're all coming in. Both chambers are trying to deal with that. Of course, the budget is also big, and it is a last-minute item every year. It is the one thing, the one item the General Assembly is constitutionally mandated to take care of each year. So that's why you're seeing a lot of these bills coming at the last minute, a lot of haggling back and forth, the budget going from one place to the other. Always the conference committee in the end decides with members from both sides, from the House and the Senate, getting together and deciding whether or not they're going to agree on what exactly is going into the $32.4 billion budget. And that's a budget that is set by the governor, Brian Kemp. Joining us live now from the Capitol is Republican Senator Russ Goodman of Cogdell. Welcome to Lawmakers. You chair the Senate Agriculture and Consumer Affairs Committee. Thanks so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be with y'all today. I'm a little tired at this point. It's been a long day, but we're getting close to the finish line, so we're getting ready to wrap this session up.
And always when you get close to the finish line, there's a lot going on. So Chairman Goodman, because we've been talking a lot about the budget, I'd like to get your comments on just the budget process that we've been seeing the last few days and today in particular.
Well, I would say this, the budget, of course, starts out with the governor setting the revenue estimate, and then, of course, he puts out his budget, and then, of course, each chamber, the appropriations committees in those chambers will work up their own budget, and so we normally there's some work to be done there. I do not serve on the appropriations committee, but I have found that a lot of times that people they get their dander up, but it seems like things tend to work out better than nothing's ever as good as it seems, and nothing's ever as bad as it seems.
Yeah, I know you're there at the Capitol because there are things going on late today, and we just saw a video of the House is still in session. The Senate is out right now?
Actually, I just had a fellow senator excuse me. We went back into session. We were in recess, and the Rules Committee met, and so they just went back into session, so I had a fellow senator excuse me where I could join you all tonight.
Well, we appreciate that. Let's get to some of your bills. SB 220, the Farmland Conservation Bill. Tell us about it.
Absolutely. It's a bill I've been pretty excited about. Senate Bill 220, the Georgia Farmland Conservation Act. There's 29 other states across the country that already have PACE programs, which is the Purchase Agricultural Conservation Easement programs. And throughout this process of learning about this program, I found out that since 1974, the state of Georgia has lost 20% of its farmland. That's in less than a generation. And so when you look at where we're at in terms of the yield curve and the population curve, the yield curve isn't keeping up with the population curve. So it's going to be very important going forward that we protect farmland for future generations. As I said earlier, 29 other states already have these PACE programs. There are federal dollars that come down. It's a dollar-to-dollar match for any state, local, or private funds that go into these programs, and it's where farmers can basically sell a perpetual easement on their farms, and it has to stay in ag production in perpetuity. So we're excited about it. We got the framework of the legislation passed. I carried it. It was a policy proposal actually from my good friend, Commissioner of Agriculture, Tyler Harper, and I carried it on his behalf in the Senate, and my counterpart in the House, Ag Chairman Robert Dickey, carried it on his behalf in the House.
And I should mention that
I believe it passed unanimously.
Right. You're a farmer, so this is near and dear to your heart. You want to talk a little bit about agriculture and food security. I know people have worried about food prices, those kind of things. What can you tell us?
Well, it's something that I've been pretty passionate about for a long time. I think, 98.2% of the population doesn't farm anymore. So the 1.8% of the population that does farm, their voices, and that's one of the reasons I guess that it inspired me for public service is to be a voice for our farmers. But when we look at where we're at in food security today, 75% of the world's ammonium nitrate comes from the Russia and Ukraine. We found out that throughout the pandemic that so much of our medicines were, the raw materials for our medicines, we were dependent upon China, and that's just, those same chemical companies that make our medicines also make our ag chem products, our fungicides, insecticides, herbicides. So, it's important that we're able to feed ourselves, and so I worry about where we're going with that in terms of our ability to be able to source the products that we need to run our farms, and also, to be quite honest, consolidation. When we look at when we had the baby formula crisis, I can't tell you whether or not the Abbott plant in Michigan, whether or not it should have been shut down, or if they got it back going fast enough. But I do know the root cause of that problem, or it's my belief anyway, that the root cause of that problem is we now have only 3 corporations that produce virtually all of the baby formula that's consumed in this country, and one plant going down can cause us to look like a third world country having to airlift baby formula in here. So I think that we've got to address not only what consolidation is doing in terms of food security, but as also as being able to source the products that our farmers need to be able to grow our crops. And we never want to be dependent upon other countries for our food supply.
Yeah, I just want to ask you real quick about your trucking weight bill. This is important to farmers, right?
Mm-hmm. It is very important to farmers, and you know, as a farmer, and especially as a Georgia farmer, we're competing against other countries that do not have the same set of labor standards, emission standards, environmental standards, and it puts us at a disadvantage. And it bothers me that as a state, once the governor's executive order expired at 95,000 pounds, we went back to 84,000 pounds. So as a state, we're doing that to our farmers as well. I mean, in every state that touches us, in terms of ag and forestry products, you can haul 4,000 to 6,000 more pounds. I'm thankful that we've gotten this far with the bill, but it's for a logger down in my part of the world, a small family logging operation that maybe moves 60 loads a week. It works out to, on a 50-mile average haul. It ends up working out to about $154,000 a year in costs to that family.
Okay, we're going to
4,000 pounds.
We're going to keep up looking at that bill. I know that we've been showing pictures of the Senate is meeting, and that they probably want you back there. I want to thank you so much for taking time to come out of the chamber and talk to us for a few moments.
Well, thank you very much. You have a good day, and it's been an honor to be with you. I'm sorry you caught me late in the day. I'm about whipped, but I'm proud to be with you. Thank you for what you do.
You're doing great. Thanks for what you do, too.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Well, coming up, we're going to learn about some middle school students who have created a bill.
Lawmakers is made possible by Georgia Farm Bureau. With over 80 years of helping everyone understand the importance of agriculture in our state. After all, ag is Georgia's #1 industry. Food and fiber production represents over $74 billion in output of Georgia's strong economy. The Georgia Farm Bureau legislative team works to represent producers across Georgia at the state capitol during the session and year-round. Georgia Farm Bureau, the voice of Georgia farmers.
Here's what's new this month with Passport.
Whichever way I turn, there's a trap. Let's set this palace on fire.
She's to be married. She is not married yet.
It's never a burden to love or give. The mother is at the heart of everything we do.
These and all your favorite shows are available with Passport. Support your PBS station and stream more with Passport on the PBS app.
Community. Learning, working, playing, celebrating, doing life is always better together. At GPB, we aim to provide you with the tools to be able to do life together well. Our mission to educate, inform, and entertain inspires everything from our wide range of programming to our stimulating radio conversations to our fun in-person events. We've got something for everyone. Visit gpb.org/community to learn more about our upcoming events.
We care about things that affect the lives of every American.
We are there at the front lines
to get to the heart of what really matters in every issue.
This country has not seen this in 80 years.
This extraordinary moment in American history.
You're making such a huge impact.
Trust is at the heart of what we do.
Welcome back to Lawmakers. I'm Donna Lowry. There are times on this show as we cover each General Assembly that the process of lawmaking looks complicated and daunting. Some might wonder why bother, but a group of 11 and 12-year-olds are fearlessly going down that path. Joining me now is the lawmaker who is sponsoring the bill that they created, Democratic Representative Roger Bruce of Atlanta. Also here is the director of the nonprofit that mentors the girls, Delon Brown, of Kids with Strong Opinions, Inc. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Kids with Strong Opinions, Inc. is a great name. Tell me how you work with them at Renaissance Middle School.
Well, as you said, we are a mentorship program, and we teach children to express themselves, how to use their voice, to speak and defend, something that they are very passionate about. And Renaissance Middle School is a part of Fulton County, which we are partners with. And so we went to that school and, asked to mentor some if they needed some
how
mentors.
often?
Once a week.
Yeah, and they have strong opinions, huh? Okay.
Yes. They have
I'm glad to hear that. Before we hear from you, Representative Bruce, let's hear from the girls and look at their journey to try to get their idea to become a law.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Soraya Rose. I attend Renaissance Middle School, and my parent is Latoya Brown. And today, I'm here to discuss why we need bus monitors on our buses.
This is no presentation to classmates. Soraya and 3 other students spoke before adults who create Georgia laws.
So I want this bill passed because I feel like it would make the environment for students and the bus driver a lot more safe.
Poised, confident, smart. These girls from Renaissance Middle School in the city of South Fulton are just 4 members of Girl Code, a nonprofit that works in schools. The girls recognized a problem, wanted to see if it could become law, and as with all bills, they started with a meeting with a legislative council lawyer. Weeks later, they had House Bill 238 for a 5-year pilot program to get adults to serve as school bus monitors.
When I was on the bus and we were riding to school, a girl and a guy, the guy was talking about her brother and what's happening at her house. And then she got really mad and both of them started fighting. And then at the end of the fight, she ended up with a black eye.
The bus driver is supposed to be there. They were hired to focus on the road, to drive a bus. So when there's situations going on a bus, when there's ongoing situations on the bus driver would have to stop and possibly pull the bus over or anything like that. And they're supposed to be focused on the road.
They feel so strongly about this issue, they asked to meet with Governor Brian Kemp, and he spent time listening and asking questions.
Teach our schools, be our police officers.
It was definitely exciting. It was kind of scary. And I feel like there was just so much pressure. And when the meeting was over, I was like, oh, thank God. Because it was so much. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't make a single mistake. I'm meeting with the governor here. This is really important,
Important enough for the House Education Policy Subcommittee to invite them to explain the reasons they want the law.
Especially when there's medical issues on the bus. For example, one girl on my bus one time, she had a seizure. And, the teachers had to, the bus driver had to pull over. The kids had to pick her up. It was so much going on. And, it was cars going past, and it was so much going on. And then the bus driver, they were like, call the ambulance. And there were so many kids scared. They were screaming. They were trying to call their parents. It was a lot going on because the girl collapsed on the floor.
Lawmakers offered some suggestions, including other options.
I would strongly encourage you to hit in your community, to hit every resource of communities of faith, nonprofits, PTAs, whatever it takes to protect the students on the bus.
Laws aren't necessarily the only way to address a concern.
One of the challenges we have with bus drivers is the fact that now I think Cobb County is paying $25 an hour or something to that effect because they're asked to do so many jobs.
In the end,
I feel like anyone can make a difference, no matter how small, how big, how tall, how short you are, how anything, your gender, your race, your nationality, your ethnicity. I feel like anybody can make a difference.
Representative Bruce, I'd have them represent me anytime. I think they're doing it. They came to you early in this process,
yes,
right? And tell us what happened.
It came about as a result of an invitation to come and to talk to them about how bills get passed. And then they said, okay, we got a bill we want to get passed. And the original bill was not exactly this way. They wanted to mandate it, and they wanted, it to be paid for. But, school systems tend not to want to be mandated too. So after they talked with a number of people, it came to where we are now, where it's a program that will allow school systems that have a need, because not all school systems have a need, to be able to apply for funds from the state that would pay for this additional person on the bus.
And it's a pilot program at this point.
It's a pilot program for 5 years. Okay. We've already got school systems saying we want in. And Douglas County was with us a couple of days ago, right. And they said they want in. Fulton County wants in. Other counties are starting to call and say they want to be in. So the kids have a great idea. And it should not be stopped because of money. It just shouldn't. We're spending money on some crazy things, and I've been in the legislature, as you know, for 20 years, and I've seen crazier things than this where money was spent.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that the lawmakers brought up. And one of them they talked about, well, what about grandparents and parents being monitors on buses? But even another lawmaker said there's a danger in doing that. Yes. Talk about that a little bit.
And I think their issue was, certifying them to be, CPR certified. And the kids were against that because they said that, they may not respect parents, the parent of another person in their authoritative, So they would like it to be someone who's hired from the school, who's trained, to take care of medical issues and to also be kind of a mediator or, someone who can help them to, deflect, because they say they don't know how to deflect, when they are approached.
Somebody would need training. Yeah, somebody would need training, but they would also, there's also the idea that there's just so much volunteers can do in terms of touching kids if they had to intervene.
You have those issues, and you also have just the issue of a volunteer saying, I can't make it today. And there's no consequence for that because they're a volunteer. And, so the whole idea is to make the children feel safe. And having people who are not focused on being on that bus, they're focused on being grandma, grandpa, or whatever, that could be totally different. And it's not a good idea.
Yeah, the kids said we wouldn't want our own parents on because that would cause a problem. Mm-hmm. You have had a fun time in taking these kids out of schools because the hearing was a last-minute thing. What, Tuesday night you guys found out that it was Wednesday?
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so,
but we have some good parents and supportive parents, and they've been with them from the beginning of this and told us anything that we can do, let us know. So we called them up and they were like, okay, we're there. This is it. This is the moment they've been waiting for. So they made it happen.
They were so poised yesterday in front of that committee. Let's talk about what happens with the bill now, because it's not going to pass this session.
No, our sessions are 2 years, as you know. And almost every single member of that committee came to me today on the House floor telling me how proud they were of those kids. So I asked them, I said, does that mean you're going to pass this bill? I said, if you're proud of them and they did a good job, you're going to pass it. So what it appears is going to happen is that when we come back in January, it'll be sent to the full committee, and then the full committee hopefully will send it to Rules, and then Rules will put it on the floor for a vote.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like these kids are going to stop. They're probably going to start sending letters, the whole
They have a petition on change.org and that they're pushing, and yes, they have some other activities that they want to do.
What's the name on change.org?
It's House Bill 238, school bus safety bill.
Yeah, so they're serious about this.
They're serious.
Girls who are opinionated. What is it? Girls?
Kids with strong opinions.
Kids with strong opinions.
Yes, our motto is our kids are our future.
Oh,
so we're preparing them. For the future.
It's great. You must feel really proud of this. I covered years ago another bill you helped shepherd some kids through.
Right, and I believe this is important, to get the kids involved at a young age. And every part of that bill that you're talking about is now state law.
Yeah.
And that was initiated by 10-year-olds.
And what year was that? That's going to take us back.
2004 or 5, something
I know, it's going to take us back. Yeah. Well, I thank you for what you do. Thank you for what you're doing with the students, too. And I appreciate you both for coming on the show. That does it for Lawmakers today. We'll be back on Monday for Legislative Day 39, the last day before Sine Die. Good night.